I want to start these videos by saying I'm not a professional motorcycle mechanic. All I had to go by was the manual for some of the stuff. The reason why I did this video was because the lift kit and the exhaust kit didn't come with written instructions. So I figured this might help some people as they go to install their stuff. What I'll do is I'll put links in the bottom of the video for the lift kit from Forever Rad and for the exhaust kit from Toce and for the spring compressor tool from Traction. And let's get to the fun part. Now the front's done. We're going to move on to the back. I shifted the jack back a little bit so the front wheel can be on the ground, so it's a little bit more stable. You'll need a 6mm Allen. Pop these side panels off, and you have your 2 bolts for your seat here and here, and then your bolts for your saddlebags. If you have the back lights, you'll need to disconnect these before you take them apart. This part of the videos might get a little different. What I'm going to do is I'm also putting the Toce exhaust on, so I'm going to try and do a video with that as well, and the whole back of the bike has to come apart for that anyway. So some parts will be talking about exhaust and some parts will be talking about the lift. Once the seat's off, you're going to just want to disconnect this plug here. It's for your light spec here, so you don't have to take any of this off. You're going to use an 11mm and remove these bolts on both sides for your sissy bar. And then you're going to remove these 3 bolts, and there's a bolt right down here on both sides of the fender, and the fender will just come right off. And this push pin here. For these, you're going to need a 13mm socket and a 10mm socket. And then just kind of pull out on both sides so it comes off these little pins. And it should straight up. Should. Well, I forgot. So this connector here was underneath the coolant expansion tank, and then you also have your antenna harness that needs to be unplugged. Now, it should lift right off. Kinda. Instead of me screwing around and unzip tying this whole harness in the back of that fender, just an 8mm socket, and this antenna pulls right off, and then the harness stays on the fender. Now you have the back of the bike, easy access. For the exhaust, we're gonna take this subframe off because the Toce option comes with a billet subframe that's gonna replace all this. For the shock removal, the manual tells you to drop the swing arm and remove it. I really don't want to do that. So what we're going to attempt to do is pull the overflow tank out. Almost 2 10mm bolts. Just unplug this for the harness. Your overflow hose will kind of run up. And then there's a 4mm Allen right down here. So now for the exhaust side removal, again, it's a 15mm clamp up here. And there's a flathead screwdriver to loosen this clamp for your heat shield. 13mm bolts back here, and then the whole muffler should move back. Back here there's this mount for your antenna. I'm just going to hold this. I'm not sure if the Toce bracket reuses or not, but just in case. Muffler off, I'm going to move it to the subframe. Again, 13mm bolt. And come right up. Just to make things a little bit easier, you can use a 1/4" socket. And you can loosen all these hose clamps on your shields. A couple down here, one back here. This will work its way free. And then what I'll do is I'll move the cat next. For the cat removal, you're going to need a 13mm socket. There's a bolt here on each side, and then a 5mm Allen for this clamp, and then the cat will just drop right off. With that, the cat has been relieved of its emission duties. We don't need that anymore. Now going up here, you don't have to take the forward control completely off. All you have to do is loosen these 2 Allen bolts and kind of just let it dangle, and then you can get to your front header bolts and your oxygen sensors. And for that, you'll need a 8mm Allen again, and here are your 2 bolts. I just zip tied it up because you don't really want this soft brake line to start kinking. And we will move on to the header. You need a 14mm wrench. There's one back here too. And then what I'm going to do here for the header bolts is a 13, just like everything else, and put it on a swivel, and I'll be able to get up in there. Super easy with the swivel. Just like that. Once you get those 4 bolts out, the whole header will just kind of pull out and down, and then you're done. So the next step will be to install the rear subframe once it comes, and then I'll start on the header and work my way back. And then the subframe will come with its own bag mount that I'll put here, and then put the fender back on and reassemble it. Alright, so we're going to start with the subframe. They have everything labeled left and right. Okay, for the rear subframe, first thing we want to do, if you opted for this, you don't have to buy this with the system. You can use other bag mounts. A couple different companies make them. This is the cleanest one because it doesn't have anything that hangs down below the bag on either side, so it keeps everything tucked up and nice. You reuse your existing 13mm bolts up here. I kind of started them out this really close tolerance with how they have this milled. So I started it, put the bolts in, and then kind of threaded them in and sucked the piece into here. And then they supply you with these two 13mm bolts and tighten everything up. Alright, so this basically, you have to wiggle in a little bit. So I don't have it on the head yet. What I did was installed this aft O2 sensor, just because it's a real pain with this cover still installed. And I already put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads back there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this way. So that way once it actually goes in, then it unbinds the cable. And then you use a 14mm wrench to tighten it. With the 2 sensors in place, we're just going to push it up in there and get seated in the head. And then push our flanges up on. And we're going to reuse our existing 13mm bolts with our swivel to get in there. Pretty tight fit, but easy to do. The swivel. Snug them up pretty good, top and bottom. No need to get carried away. Alright, and now underneath, there will be a clamp down here, and we'll put that on next. So underneath, they already have this clamp installed on the header, and then it mounts in these 2 existing locations on your engine. If this isn't lining up perfectly, you loosen this bolt, and then you can shimmy this around to get these 2 bolts in, and once again, they're 13mm. Next, what we're going to do is slide the Y pipe on. This is the back support, and it's adjustable depending on where everything fits. The other back support is already installed on the muffler. That'll be right here. So if this is a little tight, you can just kind of pry between the 2 pipes, and then it'll shows right on pretty easy. And next, we're going to move and throw the muffler on. So I didn't weigh everything individually. The box came in at 30 pounds. I forgot my scale, so I can't weigh anything, but it's substantially lighter than stock, I can tell you that. So the muffler's on, and then we'll have this bracket right here. And it'll sit like this. And now that I have the muffler kind of loosely here, take and install these springs. And back here, your 2 Allen keys go in there. I believe it is a 6mm, and then obviously again a 13mm up here. So when the springs are in, I'm going to tighten all this stuff back here. Okay, for the back support, you don't have to buy this piece if you already have one. Obviously it works in conjunction with this and cleans up everything down here. You have a 6mm Allen that'll go up here, and then you reuse this 13mm bolt that we had from the stock fender. Now, if you're having a little bit of issue getting this bolt started or this bolt started, what you can do is loosen these 6 bolts in the subframe. The subframe moves around quite a bit. You can get everything started and then snug it all down. This kit also comes with these 2 little spacers here. What these spacers are for, if you need them, I personally don't need them, but it's a space that goes behind your floorboard here. It can space this in or out if you feel that this is too close to your exhaust. So I'm going to run it without these right now and call it good. I'm not even going to bother starting it now until I get it all together and I can stick it outside. So what I'm going to do now is just put the fender back on, saddlebags back on, and then we'll push it out for a start. Alright, so when reinstalling the fender, obviously don't tighten this bolt back here because it's a slot that your fender runs into. There's plenty of adjustability up and down. You put your push pin back in for your coolant reservoir, and then your taillight harness and your antenna harness. Make sure it doesn't get pinched in here. And obviously then you'll have your 10mm bolts that you put back together. And same thing over here. Keep this loose so the fender can slide down and into it. And then we'll work on the antenna harness over here. Alright, you want to let me lose some. I was stupid. Oddly enough, it fit. Went to put the bag on it and the bag was sitting too far forward. So with this kit, the Allen key goes down here, and what it actually does, it actually allows you to run any of the bro bars that you want, which I have a new set coming in, so I was a little disappointed that I couldn't run them with it being there, but now it doesn't have to go there. It's no problem. So I was able to just lift up the fender enough to get this back bolt in. Obviously we'll put this 13mm bolt back in, and then we'll put it back together. You know, if you're not doing things 3 times or even having fun, stupid me mounted these on the outside. That's what these nice little milled cutouts are for inside here. And the bolt head goes inward, outward on exhaust and saddlebag side. Alright, here's the very first start with this new Toce system, full mount.